Thank you for talking to us, sir.
Yes.
With Nigeria keen on diversifying from the oil and gas sector to other sectors and paying more attention to them, what efforts do you feel that can be done to encourage the government of Nigeria to invest in other sectors?
Well, I'm not sure it's the government's responsibility to invest in other sectors, but it's certainly the government's responsibility to create the environment that will allow both domestic and foreign investors to make the investments. Of course, government itself can make some of the investments alongside the private sector, but I myself am not philosophically inclined to encourage governments to be the principal or the primary investor in almost any other sector. I mean, today Nigerians have quite a number of billionaires who own banks and shipping companies and airlines and insurance firms and huge property development. So I don't think there's any sector of the Nigerian economy that you can't get 5 or 6 businessmen to be put together to own whatever it is, whether it's refineries, whether it's gas pipelines, or whether it is any other manufacturing plant. But I think the key is that once Nigeria recognizes that oil prices can be at $100 and can also come down to $50, and that can create major frustrations for the budget, then diversification is important. And that's why some of us in the West African region have taken a lot of interest in the work of your former Minister of Agriculture, Adesina Akinwumi, who did a great job, I think, in conscientizing the population. And it's just raising awareness of the fact that you were once a very powerful agricultural producer of cola nuts and palm oil and groundnuts and cassava and so forth. And I think you still are one of the biggest producers of cassava and yams around the world. But it's up to the country to determine from a strategic point of view where you want your priorities to be. You can't be everything to everybody. So if you want to be the world's biggest yam and cassava producer, then you go into that direction. If you want to focus on sugar or palm oil, then that's what you do. But of course, that also is related to the nature of the soils and the climate and weather factors in this country, the pesticides, the pests rather, that can affect particular crops, etc. Of course, because of a large population, you probably stand in good stead also to be a good hub for light manufacturing. So all the assembly plants that West Africa needs, of course, we in Ghana will try and get some of it, but you have a good opportunity to, you've already had car assembly plants and bus assembly plants in the past for Volkswagen and for Peugeot, etc. And if you also can do laptop and desktop and television and white consumer goods assembly, I imagine that many countries will find your market size already sufficiently attractive just for that. And then, of course, you have the ECOWAS market also to move into.
But what are we doing wrong? Well, 170 on the ease of doing business. Ghana is 70. What is Ghana doing right? What are we doing wrong?
Well, I think the mere size of your country and the federal nature of your country provides some structural challenges. Listening to some of the comments that have been going on in this conference, it's quite clear that that is part of the problem. You pass a law at the federal level, but implementation takes place at the state and local level. So the lawyer, the business person is in Abuja or is in Abeokuta or is in Yola or is in Calabar. And how does he take advantage of that federal law at his local level when the agencies that must help to implement those laws, whether it's the company registration body or the investment center or any number of other agencies, possibly may not be in 50 locations, 30 states and so many different local government areas. So there are organizational and of course resource constraints to that. Then of course we also hear about the importance of information technology, the fact that when you have distances and you also have costs, one of the best ways to cut down those costs is through information and communication technology. Now that's one area where you've done quite well under the Nigeria Communications Commission, NCC, and the Engineer Nduko and others who did a lot to transform the mobile telecommunications sector and help to bring in broadband, and you had your own NICOMSAT, your satellite communications infrastructure. But I know there have been some challenges in that area, and we don't have too much time to get into all of that. But I think that's one area where if broadband, Glo has a fiber optic cable that has connected Europe to Africa, including to Nigeria. Main One is also another Nigerian-owned infrastructure fiber optic cable company with Funke Opeke as the lead owner. And there are 5 other major, fiber optic infrastructure covering all the way from Europe to South Africa, passing through Nigeria, or the coast of Nigeria. So with such bandwidth in terabytes, in large quantity, along the coastline, the challenge, of course, is them getting it terrestrially, getting it onto the land, and then networking the whole country. But your country is very large, so fiber optic cabling throughout the country is obviously a significantly large investment that may require both public and private partnerships to succeed in. In the mobile sector, you've had companies like Helios that have been in the tower erecting industry business and have helped to bring a large percentage of your country within reach of mobile services. So tablets, mobile phones, laptops are now relatively widespread throughout the country. The challenge is to have infrastructure, the IT systems that are robust to hold all the data that is required to network the different agencies at the state and federal level, so that, as we are hearing, companies and businesses that want to register in remote areas don't have to travel to Abuja or Lagos to execute those transactions.
But what about regulators? What more can they do, especially looking at their role as catalysts for economic growth?
Well, I think regulators, in the whole regulatory business, the key is for a regulator to understand whether they are there to facilitate business or they are there to frustrate business. There are many regulators who think their job is to control a certain area, whether it is land acquisition or company registration or foreign exchange transmissions, and their job is basically, one is to block or to say no as the first answer, rather than how can I help this business person who has this particular problem to solve it. So if they are in a problem-solving mindset, and if they are in a facilitating mindset, and if they realize that the purpose of their organization is to promote job creation, income generation, employment, and the growth of the whole economy, then hopefully they have a somewhat different attitude to how they do their work. But that is a whole challenge for the entire public services, not just of Nigeria, but for most African countries, where even though the name says public service, people don't understand that they are there to serve the public. They become titans and demigods unto themselves once they occupy these positions, and they think that by making things difficult for the business person, they can sometimes inherit some additional income from the process. Because if somebody comes to the office 3-4 times and they're not getting their way, they think by putting some money on the table, that will open the door. And so there are regulators and public servants in general all over the world who tend to have that attitude of, I will not cooperate, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I won't do it until some money shows up.
Finally, you talked about the need for the laws at the federal to trickle down to the states and the local government. Do you think that we are losing anything by not having that central person like the NIPC in Ghana who sits in the president's office and coordinates all these things?
I can't say I understand how your Nigerian investment organization is structured and the authority that they have to operate at both federal and state level. I mean, to the extent that we are a unitary state, even though we also have regions, but there's only one Ghana Investment Promotion Center, and I don't think we really have multiple investment centers. But I know that certainly in the certain sectors, state and local governments have also liked to impose their own additional taxes or levies. In the telecom sector, it was quite common to find that Lagos State or another state says that even though the federal is doing so and so, we are also going to do
some of the things that came
such and such. But there, I think it's a matter of the legal and constitutional system of your country. And even though you don't want to take everything to court to sort it out, I think it's a matter of the president sitting down with the governors of the states, whether they belong to his party or not, and making it clear what the government's expectations and directions are, and what the state governors can do and cannot do. Because some of these things, I'm sure, beyond the legal dimension or the policy dimension, you can put in place policies that indicate what can be done at different levels of the federal system.
So you think that a political solution would also help?
You have to start with that, because talking to people and getting each of you on the same wavelength is very critical. I don't know to what extent Nigerian presidents and governors have ever gone on a 2-day retreat and sat down somewhere and said, look, these are 5 problems that we have in our country, and this is how we need to resolve it. So that they leave that room with a common platform and a common understanding, even though some may agree or disagree, but if the majority have decided that we should go this way, and then a policy statement can come out of that which binds them to implement, then fine. If you need to move from there to a legal process, a legislative process, and get your senators and congressmen to pass laws both at the federal and at the state levels, and even at local councils to allow legislative instruments to be realigned along that line, then that's something else that I'm sure can be done.
Thank you so much.